Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Welcome to another video where I watch an episode of one of my favorite childhood shows well into my adulthood as well, Arthur. So the first episode that we watched was Arthur's Knee. The second most requested episode was season 1, episode 27, Substitute Teacher Trouble. A few people said, like, specifically the scene where Mr. Ratburn is eating nails, which I'm still like, was this the episode or was there like another episode? Because I'm thinking of like the episode where we figure out like he's a oh shit, okay, fuck. Okay, we have another episode to watch. So we're gonna backtrack a little bit. We're gonna go season 1, episode 2, Arthur and the real Mr. Ratburn. Once again, we have the beautiful intro where Arthur is breaking the fourth wall. So it's a scene where we're in front of a bulletin board. Arthur looks at the camera and he says, "This is the day that we find out which teacher we're gonna have for 3rd grade." And Mr. Haney, the principal, brings out this paper. Everyone's like, "Oh my fucking God, like what are we gonna do?" So then Mr. Haney says, "Oh, I forgot a thumbtack," and he leaves the scene. While Mr. Haney is gone, Arthur goes into the different options of possible teachers that they might have for 3rd grade. So we have Miss Sweetwater. She's very nice. We have Miss Fink. She's very fun. And then we have Mr. Ratburn, who is allegedly the toughest, meanest teacher in the entire school. So Mr. Haney comes back. And he puts the list up. Francine is looking and she says, "Fuck, we have Mr. Ratburn, you guys." And then everyone's horrified. We get to recess or whatever where everyone's playing baseball. Both Francine and Buster are just like catatonic, just shocked out of their minds that they have Mr. Ratburn. The rest of the friend group after school is just like freaking out. They are also just like basically drooling on themselves. They pass by Brain's mom's ice cream shop. I'm pretty sure it might be someone else's at the time. And she's like, "Hi, like we have a new flavor. Do you want to try it?" And everyone's like, "Oh my God, like what do you think he's gonna be like?" And just like not in the present moment. So they're super worried and they go to their older friend, Prunella. If you don't know Prunella, I don't know. She's just older and like she's kind of sassy. I believe she made a cootie catcher at one. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that. If we get to that episode, we'll get to that episode. They go to Prunella and they're like, "Prunella, like what is he gonna be like? Like you had him last year." And she's like, "Does a bull fight? He eats nails for breakfast without milk." And this is the iconic scene that I believe that everyone was talking about with Mr. Ratburn eating nails. So he eats the nails and then what he does is he pulls out a screw because magic. And then another thing that she said to scare them was that he actually sends you to death row. Her words exactly, not mine. He sends you to death row if you get a question wrong. And so we cut to this other scene where Arthur is on death row in jail. Mr. Ratburn is being like, "Did you finish this one problem that I told you to finish? Okay, well, make sure you finish that one because you have like 999 million more to go. And make sure that you do your spelling bee." And then cue the spiders. And then she also adds in that he's also a vampire, just in case you were wondering. And she says, "Good luck," because she's a Okay. We get to the next day at school. So everyone is sitting in class. The door begins to creak open. It's Mr. Ratburn. He's like, "Okay, like, what's up? Like, I'm Mr. Ratburn. Welcome to 3rd grade. We're going to do like a little tiny quiz just to see, like where you're at, what you remember from 2nd grade. Arthur is looking at the other classes and he's like, "Why can't I be there?" And then Mr. Ratburn catches him and he's like, "Listen, dude, if you don't like get your shit together, the time's gonna run out." It's the end of the school day. The bell rings, everyone's like, "Ah!" But Mr. Ratburn's class, everyone has to line up alphabetically in order and file out single. I didn't say that right, but you know what I'm trying to say. They're playing baseball. Arthur and Buster, his BFF, are just kind of like talking about Mr. Ratburn. The ball goes like out of field or whatever, and they both go to get the ball. I don't know why, but they end up in this like little bush, okay? And this bush is below the window that Mr. Ratburn is in. if that makes sense, because windows lead to inside and outside. So he's inside, you know what I'm saying? Okay, Mr. Ratburn's on the phone. He says, okay, so I have like eyes. I have the eyes, but I need the heads. Like I have girl heads, but I never have enough boy heads. Arthur and Buster are like, what is he talking about? And they start shitting their pants. Mr. Ratburn says, I have to get the heads myself. And then we cut to Arthur and Buster basically freaking out because they have boy heads. They are like out and about. Like Arthur and Buster are just like super jumpy. They run into Francine and they're like, Jesus. And Francine's like, what's wrong? And so they tell Francine like, what's up? And then Francine tries to just like talk some sense to them. She's like, I'm sure that's not what happened. But then all three of them see him in public going into their local hardware store. What do they see? They see him buying a box of nails, and Arthur says, breakfast. And then he also buys a saw. Francine says, what is he going to do with the saw? Buster says, okay, we're going to have to like go spy kids on him. Francine says, yeah, but we have like so much homework to do. He gave us homework on the first day. And Buster says, we're either going to do our homework or we're going to face horrifying, scary danger. Like, which one would you want to do? And at the same time, Arthur and Francine say, face horrifying, scary danger. The three of them start spying on him. They're spying on Mr. Ratburn in the library. They're spying on Mr. Ratburn in the teacher's lounge. They're spying on Mr. Ratburn coaching a game in the gym. All of this to say that there's absolutely no proof. And Francine says, like, you definitely misheard something. He was probably talking about like a head of lettuce, you know, because farmers talk about heads of lettuce and stuff. Okay, peace. I'm gonna like go do my homework. So Francine leaves the scene. Arthur and Buster are left and they see Mr. Ratburn walk out of the school with a suitcase. And then out of the suitcase pops out an arm. They're like, no! And then Mr. Ratburn like squeezes it back into the suitcase. Meanwhile, Arthur and Buster are trying to like not shit their pants, and they decide that, okay, they're definitely gonna go and see what the hell is up, because this is like gross and like maybe he's a serial killer pedophile kidnapping little boys. Mr. Ratburn ends up in a carnival. Buster and Arthur both agree that they need to go into the carnival to warn all of the little boys that Mr. Ratburn is going to cut their heads off. Arthur and Buster go into different tents and they're not finding Mr. Ratburn, but then finally they end up in this one tent and they're facing a bunch of children and they say, get out of here, run, he's coming for you. Turns out they're actually on a stage. Okay, and they look up and it's Mr. Ratburn and another person. They're being puppeteers. They do a little improv scene where it's like, oh, like you're saying my line and this is Jack and the Beanstalk. So Mr. Ratburn's like, get off the stage. So Arthur and Buster exit stage right, I believe, and they're shocked. And then there's a scene where like the puppet that Mr. Ratburn is controlling, like the puppet purposely like loses its head. It's a bit that they do. The head actually cracks. So then Mr. Ratburn like walks the rest of its body off of the stage. And now Mr. Ratburn is behind the stage and he says, oh, I must go through 50 boy heads. Like they all crack in half or whatever. And then Arthur and Buster turn to each other and they say, boy heads, obviously. Duh, we're idiots. So they go into this whole bit about time management because Mr. Ratburn is a teacher, but he also still finds the time to be a puppeteer. And Mr. Ratburn's like, you know, I've been told that I give a lot of homework, but like, if you just like, you know, sit down and like manage your time properly, you can do all the things you want to do. And Arthur's like, yeah, because like you're like a teacher and a puppeteer. And Mr. Ratburn's like, yeah, exactly. I can't talk right now because I'm like, have a show, but you know, we'll talk later. Arthur and Buster are about to leave, and then Mr. Ratburn says, by the way, boys, I can't wait to see your geography homework. Arthur and Buster turn to each other and they scream. The episode ends. Yeah, I remember like in middle school there was this teacher that everyone talked about never wanting to have, and I remember like the day before school just like praying that I would not have that teacher, and I ended up not having that teacher. That's all I got. And now, back to Arthur. Season 1, episode 27, substitute teacher trouble. Okay, Arthur and Buster are coming home from school. They have like piles and piles of books that they're carrying. And they're basically talking shit about Mr. Ratburn, their teacher. They're in 3rd grade. So it's Arthur basically giving us an intro, and he's like, we hate Mr. Ratburn. He's making us do homework about clouds, versus this other 3rd grade class. Their homework is to just simply look at clouds.
It looks like a bunny. Yeah, it's so cute.
And then they go into this little like, for example, whenever we have a field trip, Mr. Ratburn makes everything into homework. And so Mr. Ratburn's like, Francine, like, what is the age of a Galapagos turtle? Galapagos? Sorry. How long do they live for? Francine looks at Muffy. Muffy leaves. Another example is like, Buster is like eating some ice cream. Mr. Ratburn's like, yo, Buster, at what temperature does ice cream freeze? Buster looks at Arthur. Arthur's like, I don't know what to tell you. And so we come back to the breaking the fourth wall scene. Buster basically goes, you know what? I just wish Mr. Ratburn would like disappear. Like, I wish Mr. Ratburn would just like fuck off. We get into the episode. Mr. Ratburn is teaching about the Battle of Ulaanbaatar, which I did have to Google because I honestly wasn't sure what that was. Heavy subject for 3rd grade, nonetheless very important. As he's teaching, he keeps going and the students are like, what the fuck is happening? Arthur's like looking at the other class through their window, and they're learning about like super easy fun stuff. And then Mr. Ratburn is like, Arthur, pay attention. Arthur's like, sorry, dude. At recess, Mr. Ratburn goes to the principal, Mr. Haney. He's like, Mr. Haney, or sorry, he's like, Mr. Haney. And Mr. Haney's like, speak up, boy. What ya? Speak up. Me can't hear you. Sorry. Mr. Ratburn's like, Mr. Haney says, listen, Mr. Ratburn, I think that you're losing your voice and you're gonna have to like leave for a week. When everyone comes back from recess, Mr. Haney walks in and he says, so here's the tea. Mr. Ratburn is sick and he'll be out for the rest of the week. In the meantime, I'm gonna find you a substitute teacher. He leaves, everyone goes, wah! And then he opens the door again and everyone's quiet. It's actually really funny. He's like, you can use this time to like read and do homework, you idiots. Closes the door again. So everyone's talking. They're like, oh my God, who do you think it's gonna be? And so they're talking about all of the past substitute teachers they've ever had. The first one being Mr. Elk. And Mr. Elk is an elk. He has a big ass antlers. Jesus Christ. And he's just like bumping into everyone. Personally, I think I would have liked Mr. Elk. He seemed nice and just like neutral. Second substitute teacher is Miss Bovine. And she's just like, spell leather. And the last one being Miss Tremolo.
Who mumbled everything. What did she say? I don't know. Your ears are bigger than mine.
So they're thinking like, okay, like who do you think is going to be our substitute teacher? I'm trying to remember, but I think like Mr. Haney walks back in or something and is like, okay, so I found a substitute teacher and it's gonna be the one and only Mr. Ratburn's sister, Miss Ratburn. So everyone's like, fuck. And then we cut to after school scene of Arthur, Francine, and Buster in Arthur's treehouse because Arthur is rich and has a treehouse. And so they're kind of talking about like, what is Miss Ratburn gonna be like? Because, you know, Mr. Ratburn is such a fucking bitch. They're like, oh yeah, exactly. Like they probably were like this exact same when they were growing up. So then we cut to a scene in the past, okay, this imaginary scene that like literally never happened. They start off by like imagining them as babies, right? They're like babies and they're doing calculus and they're like grumpy and mean. And then we get to like when they're a little bit older and they're at breakfast and they're eating nails for whatever reason. I don't know why. What is this thing with eating nails? Just to like convey that they are evil, pure evil, and they eat nails. And then Mr. Ratburn's sister is like, oh my God, you got the screw? Let me get in on that. That's my favorite part. We get to when they're in college and they're just like super competitive and like, you know, your essay was like bad and it had mistakes in it. I brought it to your teacher and now like it's like a lower grade. And then his sister's like, well, the star that you thought was a star is actually fucking not, and I went to the conservatory and they're gonna like remove your honor roll. So we get to this scene where Arthur's parents are like, oh, like these bills are, oh my god, like what are we gonna do? And Arthur sees that, goes up to his room, and then all of a sudden it's bedtime, and then Arthur says, you know what, I think I should like stay home from school. And they're like, oh, like are you sick? And Arthur's like, no, like I want to like help you out with the business. Like I don't want you to lose your business, because Arthur's dad is a cake boss, basically. You know, I'm thinking about Kate, you know. And his parents are like, okay, well, no, you're a child, so go to school. Then we get to the next day, and who walks through the door? It is Miss Ratburn, and they all think that she's going to be this evil, mean ass person, but she ends up being what is essentially the kindest kindergarten teacher that there ever was. So she's like, okay, everyone, show me your 1 times tables. And then everyone's like, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. We zoom in on the main kids of the scene, and they're like, this is so easy. Who does she think we are? Like, babies? And then whoever, I can't remember, says like, it's easy, just like go with it. She's asking like what color makes blue and yellow when they're mixed together, green. So she's like super excited, but they're like not having it. And then she sings them a song that I love. It goes, I like fudge. If you ask me what I like, I say I like fudge. This is not the only time that this song comes up. It comes in on like other episodes as well, which is why I love Arthur, because they revisit things like the nails, okay? So eventually Brain, who is like a smarty pants, so he has a meltdown, and the teacher's like, is this work too easy? And everyone's like, yes. And so she says, okay, everyone, let's do a 2 times tables. And then there's this montage of everyone just like falling asleep. Arthur asks Buster, like, what time is it? And Buster looks at his bionic bunny watch and says, it's only 10 a.m. Finally, okay, we get to the end of the school day. Teacher says, you know, I don't have any homework for you, just like rest your brains. And they are all like leaving the class, and we're like, oh my fucking god, like we have 4 more days of this, god damn it. So then we go back to the tree house, where the 3 of them again are kind of talking about like, talking shit. They're talking shit. And then Arthur and Francine agree that they actually both miss Mr. Ratburn, if you can believe it. Then they go back to school again. They're waiting for this Miss Ratburn to show up. And who shows up at the door on day 2 of 5? It is Mr. Ratburn. He is all better, and everyone celebrates, and he's like, okay, sit down. You know, and like talk show hosts do that. They're like, hey. And then they get back to their regularly scheduled programming. And Mr. Ratburn's like, okay, like, let's go. And then someone says, you know, hey, this is tough, but in a good way. Moral of the story is, be grateful for what you have. This episode reminds me of when I was in 2nd/3rd grade. We had this teacher, and she would make us like sing songs. Like I remember there was this one song that she made us sing. It's like, brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Put a peanut in your mouth and shove it up your little nose. Brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. When we had her for 2nd grade, I remember talking shit with my friend and being like, who the does she think she is? Like, does she think that we're in kindergarten singing these damn songs? Mind you, we're 8 years old. But at 8 years old, you think you're like 28, you know? So valid concerns. But ultimately, I actually ended up really loving her classes because yes, we started off singing, but I love singing and I love that Brown Squirrel song. It's hilarious. Like that's a metal song. Okay, wait, give me a beat. Hold on. Brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Brown squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Put a peanut in your mouth and shove it up your mouth. Okay. And it also reminds me of the time that same teacher projectile vomited into the sink. My 8-year-old ass was just so scared, and I just saw like yellow, and then my friend was like, no, she just spat, and that's that. We're still friends to this day. That was 2 damn episodes in one. Y'all really tested me today, but it was fun. If you have any more Arthur suggestions that you would like me to do, please follow me on Instagram and send me a message there or a comment down below. Tell me which Arthur episode lives rent-free in your mind, even if it's a little tiny fragment of your imagination that you're like, oh, I like this random scene. I will probably know what you're talking about. Thank you so much for watching. We will talk soon, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.